Hello, everybody. Everett Raymond, Sunday, November 21st. I'm here, and I will be visiting with you for a little bit shorter today. I was going to have a guest, but I have to be somewhere in 45 minutes. But I figured I'd jump on. I just posted a picture. Let me say hello to everybody. Let me look up my microphone. Hello, Gil. Hooking up my microphone, hopefully sounding good. So, welcome to Sunday. Happy Thanksgiving week to you, Teresa. I'm going to have 3 guests in a row, and today I can only do about 20 minutes. So I noticed there was a lot of questions about the Psy episode. So I just posted this picture. See if that'll get in focus. That looks in focus-ish. So there were a lot of questions leading up to that, and let me get to, I'll get back to that photo. Leo, who are the guests? We'll be talking to Tom McGowan again, Andy Kindler. And then hopefully next week, somebody I've been trying to have visit. And again, a lot of people aren't on Instagram who are involved with Everett Raymond, so I may even have to resort to a phone call, holding the speaker up to the microphone. Okay, nice. Hello, yes, looks like a young, hello UK, scrolling back, happy Thanksgiving to everybody, good to see everybody here. Hello Abby, hello Wendell Poons, glad you could make it this week from England. Hello Heather, who loves Halloween. Hello Louise, hello Donnell in England, correct? Great. Great. Good to see you all. So, the Psy episode, that was written by Steve Scrovan. Steve Scrovan is not on Instagram. I will talk to him, though, and hopefully I'll talk to him. Hello, Ohio. Hello, Anthony. Steve Scrovan is from Ohio. Coincidence? Patricia Heaton, also from Ohio. And those of you that are not familiar with the geography of the United States, Ohio is in the Midwest. And I think Patty and Patricia Heaton and Steve Scrovan, writer of the Psy episode, are both from Cleveland, or at least the Cleveland area. So the Psy episode started, and when we have Scrovan on here, Steve Scrovan, he can elaborate. But I know it started in the writer's room where he shared the story about his wife sighing. And somebody asked, did that happen in real life, where it ended up with the hosing off of each other? And as far as I can remember, that did not happen. And as you know, in comedy, the best comedy, at least, is based in reality and then exaggerated a little bit. Because if you put on TV real life, it would be very boring. Even reality TV is very much scripted. You don't think it's scripted, but they have to build drama. And so on the Psy episode, and for those of you that are just joining that didn't see the photo, that was this episode where Ray and Deborah it culminates in them spraying each other with hose. That is Steve Messias. Steve Messias is the second. The term is second assistant, and so he operates what's known as the slate. And there you can see they are wet, Ray and Patty, and they've stopped after getting wet, and they're going to do another take. So there were some questions about, do they have to dry off and then do this? The answer is no. So what they did the scene right up until the point that they started hosing each other off with the shower head, the new shower head. So they would get it exactly what they need, and then they would go, okay, cut right when they're about to turn on the water, and I think they even mimicked turning on the water. So then they have the initial take. And the initial take is exactly ish what you see on TV. And I say ish because they always do a second take. There is never a time when you don't do a second take because, especially in those days, hello, Kenneth, in those days, we shot on film. And even if it looked great and the performance is perfect and the director's like, this is great, cut, we're done, it's not going to get better than that, you still do a second take because let's say they go and develop it and they either A, ruin the film or the film has a scratch in it. Now you're really in trouble because you can't replicate the show. You're already on to the next week. So as crazy it might seem for the live studio audience to sit there and go, what went wrong? Why are they doing it again? That's not what's going on in the session. There's no necessarily any mistakes. So you always have to do it. So that's why with this episode, they went all the way up to the point of spraying each other off. And then they stopped and they got all that they needed from those takes. And then they moved on. Now, it's very interesting to see. Hello, everybody. Yes, you watched. This is great. I can read these. It must have been fun to film that episode. Yes, that was quite a fun episode, and I have a lot of photos from that moment. Of course, I knew it was coming, and so I will post a lot of things now, a lot of photos from that. So, Steve Macias. Steve Macias is, as I said, the second. He looks like Henry Winkler. And for those of you, I don't know, does anybody remember the Bonnie Hunt talk show? Bonnie Hunt talk show. He worked on the Bonnie Hunt talk show, and they ended up doing a scene with Henry Winkler and Steve Macias. I don't think Steve, who's a very nice guy, I saw him at at the Muppet stage not that long ago. He was doing a project. If he gets on Instagram, I will interview him because he's a really nice guy. And people would be, when they would go to the live tapings, they would be shocked because they'd think, and I would make fun when I was in the audience, that all he had to do was do the slate. And the slate, for those of you that don't know, the slate just makes a noise. It goes, the nickname is a clapperboard. It makes a noise so they can synchronize the picture with the sound. And so the sound editor is looking for that spike, and he lines up the picture with that thing hitting. So it's still in use today, and they started using it when talkies came into fashion, which was before my time. But Steve also would load the film. He had a lot of other duties. But when you're watching the live filming, all it looks like is every once in a while he walks up and does that slate. So he would do the slate, would say, okay, take the rest of the day off, Steve. Adrian, you watch Raymond every night in bed. You love them all. That is awesome. Hello, Lisa in the UK. Yes, Kenneth. So Ken was our great guest 2 weeks ago, and Ken obviously knows the show as well as anybody on the planet and directed, and he is writing Hair in the Gate. And so check the gate. These are the days of film. You would hear, okay, check the gate. You're looking to make sure there is not a foreign object, a hair, etc. And for those of you that watch old films, you might see that fluttering hair, and then it eventually disappears. Karen, was the water warm? Yes. It was not. Yes, it was not freezing cold. That would be cruel to do to them. Yes. So, did Ray and Patricia have to practice hosing each other off for multiple times in rehearsal? No. The rehearsal, they did not hose each other off. They went through the motions, and they're they're holding it. They have their scripts, and I'll see if I have any shots of them holding scripts while pretending to hose each other off, which would have happened early in the season. Karen, you love Bonnie Hunt. It's not in the UK, so I don't think it is still. Show not seen in the UK, though I don't think it is still. Great. Hair in the Gate. Yes, Robert's wedding pictures, my pictures from the wedding. Do I like to see the cast in other small parts, like Ray in The Office to Brad in Monk? Oh, okay. Good question, King Me. I went to see when Ray filmed The Office, and for those of you that don't watch the American version of The Office, there was a question of who was going to replace Steve Carell. And so to tease the audience, they had as many celebrities come in and interview for the job. It was a brilliant idea because the audience didn't know, and you get to see your favorite celebrities in that position. Give me some hearts if you want to see behind the scenes of Ray at The Office, the American version of The Office, because it was a fun shoot. Yes, it's always fun to see those characters and to see the Raymond characters in other roles. Now, a problem that they say, there's an expression in Hollywood about a hit sitcom. It's a golden cage, meaning you're making money, you're successful, you're known, but it can be hard to break out from that. And I think everybody on our show had success afterwards in various different parts. I know that some shows, it's tougher. Now, if you go back and you look at Robin Williams, he could be known as Mork from Mork or whatever his name was on that show. But obviously people don't even think of that now because his body of work is so large compared to the magnitude of that show. Now, it took them a while it takes a while to shed that mantle of that sitcom. And some people are more successful than others at doing it. And nowadays, I would say it's much easier to cross into movies and back to TV versus the 60s and 70s. Movie stars very seldom appeared on TV. And now there's so many great TV shows. It's probably the best storytelling around for the most part. Scrolling through some of these photos. Hello, Huntington, West Virginia. You just finished watching The Lie. Yes, a great episode. And The Lie, yes, Liars, was a great example of later in the series that the show never really diminished, which is why I was sad that the show had to end. All right, I'm scrolling through. Did I ever get a great script idea which didn't make it? It would be interesting to know if you would have taken any characters a different way, maybe. Okay, Windlepoons, good question. So I would say not really, because, the question is, was there ever an idea that didn't make it? Any good story idea, Phil would put on the board. So I don't know of anybody who was trying to get a story told and Phil said, no, I'm not going to do it. Now, that did happen where Phil would say, no, I'm not going to do it. But chances are, because Phil was very democratic. And so if 5 of us were like, this is such a great story, Phil, you really have to consider it. Or Ray, you got to consider it. It would come up for discussion. Now, there is a lot, as you know, from watching me over the last year and a half, there's a lot that goes into a story. So when people often think, oh, I had a flat tire. What do you think? That could be a good episode. Well, not yet. I mean, you have to do a lot of work to make it. You have to have a moment where you build it up to this point of the act break, etc. So the idea that someone had this brilliant episode and Phil said, nope, I don't want to do it, that really didn't happen. And towards the end, I will say this, towards the end of the series, we only did 16 episodes during season 9. And for all of us, for everybody on the show, every episode not only meant more income, but also meant at the time, but also more residual income. And it's obviously not just about income, but the people were losing their jobs. 130 people were unemployed the day after Raymond ended. So there was this incentive to try and get stories done. So I think, had there been any inkling of a really good story, Phil would have done it. Let's see. Tom, before the live show starts and you warm up the audience, are the audiences allowed to ask any questions? Yes. So, Leo, Mark Sweet, who I had as a guest here probably a year ago, he would warm up the audience. Okay, so here's what would happen if you came to a live filming of Everest Raymond. You file in, you get onto the Warner Brothers lot, season 2 through season 9. The first season were at something called Hollywood Center Studios, where I Love Lucy filmed their first 2 years, which is in the heart of Hollywood. It's now called Sunset Las Palmas. You file in, you sit down, they play back the episode that they filmed the week before. So it's the only time that the show, that the series writers, Phil, Ray, are able to watch and hear an audience reaction to a filming, to a taping. Unlike a movie, you make a movie and then you can go in the theater and sit in back and listen to people responding to your movie. So on a TV show, you know, how do you go into 1 million people's homes and watch? You can't. But for that one moment, 200 people are watching 22 minutes of a TV series, a TV episode that has not aired yet. And so that will run, and we would all watch and sit there because sometimes it was still being edited. So when you would see what was shown in front of the audience, sometimes you're like, they shaved a couple of frames off the end of this entrance or something like that. It's much better now than what the audience saw. For us, for most people, they would not necessarily notice the difference, although cumulatively you do feel the effect of really good editing tweaks, etc. Then now the show has stopped, the playback has stopped, and they're all watching on TVs over the audience. Mark Sweet now has the mic, and he'll talk to the audience. He'll brief them and say, listen, don't laugh, and then say your name. Make sure you watch the monitors. We're going to do everything twice. He kind of preps the audience so you know what you're in for. Now, when I would go into the audience, Ray would say, go up and give Mark a break. And so I would go up in the audience and just talk to the audience, very much like I'm doing now. At that point, they would answer, I would say, ask any questions, because Mark, who's probably the best warm-up comic in the business, he doesn't necessarily know the behind-the-scenes stories of the show, even though he was there from beginning to end, an invaluable part of the process. So, yes, I would answer questions from the audience, because there is a lot going on. If you haven't seen a filming, there's a lot going on the floor, and so there's a lot of questions. Noah, when Three's Company ended, John Ritter had a hard time finding another hit role after Jack Tripper. Yeah, it's very hard. He did do movies and he was beloved, but it is very hard for, there's even any successful actor is always looking for their next project. And it's an unfortunate, you're almost always unemployed. That's the life of an actor, unless you're on a hit sitcom. If you're on season 4 of Friends, you can rest easy. But for the most part, you're always out of work and always looking for work, and you don't know whether you will work again. Did you notice in those years when there would be poignant scene where we're allowed to be moved to tears, ELR always followed through without a laugh? Yes, Kristen. So in other words, they didn't. So there's a term they call a treacle cutter, where you put into a script something that takes away, if it's overly emotional, you kind of want to take it away because you are a comedy. But we know that drama, if you're invested in the characters, then the comedy will play better, because people are loving what they are seeing with the characters. So the comedy almost becomes second place. And that's kind of the difference between the difference between a show that's kind of like 30 Rock, which is a little more cartoony with tons and tons of laughs, and Everybody's Raymond. Okay, Karen, our audience is back for the filming of shows now. So I talked to Mark last week, Mark Sweet, who does warm-up. He did a pilot, and it was a very odd thing. Okay, so in a normal live filming, there's a bleacher. So you're at a bleacher like you're at a baseball game or, any high school event is more the thought. 200 people sitting closely. So Mark just did warm up, and they put a live audience, but it was people spread out like 6 feet apart between chairs, and they were on the floor. So he had to walk the whole length of the floor versus the audience bleachers. So are they back? A little bit, Karen. They're a little bit. And it's very, very important for comedy to have a live audience. So it's a really, really tough time. And I know for the series finale of Everybody's Raymond, it was a giant event. It was so popular that spouses of people of anybody really weren't allowed to be on the set, and even some people who worked on the show were sitting in the audience. So Tom McGowan, I think, Jason Gellis, who you heard from, who was a writer on Raymond, a writer's assistant, they're all sitting in the audience. Andy Kindler, which was weird to see. When I went to the finale of Mom, and there was no live audience. And it was very sad because, it's an event with a live audience. And for Mom, there was just no audience, and they shot it, and that was it. Live audience goes, yes, we're desperate to see some new Frasier filming. Nice, Windlepoons. Yes, the show ending a bummer. Thank God for all the episode. Yeah, and again, Peter Boyle's health was failing, and there was, going back to the story idea, Phil and Ray both wanted to end the show when it was on top, and we were having trouble thinking of episodes at that point that were fresh, because 9 years is a long time, and if you actually watch, give me some hearts, who's interested in seeing the I Love Lucy being the Ricardos, or whatever it's called, the Aaron Sorkin, Nicole Kidman thing, movie. That only ran from 51 to 57, I think. So that ran for 6 years as the half-hour original format that you know. It's very hard to write a show and keep it consistently at a high level for a long time. So you are welcome, Windlepoons. Kelsey Grammer. Yes, sorry. Talk about Frasier coming back. Who had final say in what happened, Ray or Phil? Could one overrule each other? Great question. It was a toss-up, really. I mean, they got along, so there was never any giant disagreement. And for example, in the editing room, I think I've mentioned the story. If Ray and Phil were having a disagreement about a take, let's say, so there's two takes, and it's Deborah delivers this one this way, and Ray, and then she delivers another the other way. If Ray's watching that cut and he says, "Boy, I want to see the other cut," and Phil goes, "Oh, I looked at that. I think this is better." If it really came down to it, where they're sitting in the editing bay, and they're like this, they're like, "Nope, I think you're wrong." Phil would call some of the writers up to the writers' room and up to the from the writers' room into the edit bay. And then they would play the clip, and we didn't know who liked which one. So he'd play A, the editor would play, she would play A, and then she would play B. And then we'd go, okay, which one, Phil would go, which one do you guys like better? Now, we didn't know which one Phil or Ray liked better, but we would just say, this one is better. And so that almost always settled those type of arguments. So, but the workload on a show, to be the showrunner of a show, and then the star of a show, it's very overwhelming. So you have to trust the other person, and it's very, very hard when, if you know, there's many shows where the showrunner and the head and the star are at loggerheads, and there's a lot of sitcoms where that ends in disaster because they can't be in the same room together. So for the most part, arguments, again, I don't remember, there was no giant blow-ups, etc. that weren't able to be settled in some way. During the season, the actors are not allowed to have any haircuts. Yeah, they get haircuts just like normal human beings. I don't mean that in a funny way. I mean, you have good hair days and bad days. But yes, Ray, to some degree, but yes, Ray couldn't grow a beard because it would just be weird and we would have to write to it. And Patty, Patty had beautiful hair, if you notice. So I don't know how much she would, but yes, if Patty decided to chop off all her hair, I think she, out of courtesy, because you also have to think that we're all working together. You're trying to make a good show. So if Patty really wanted to cut her hair, she would give Phil the heads up, like, hey, heads up, I'm going to cut my hair really short so that I don't come in tomorrow looking completely different. So some countries don't have live audiences. That is a question mark from Magpie Bean. I do know when I supervised a show in Poland, they did not have live audiences. So they did multiple camera sitcom. They shot it like they did in America, but no real live audiences, which is a crime. Say hello to your daughter, Georgina, who's watching this with you and who loves ELR. Yes, hello, Georgina. That's a beautiful name. These are all great questions. And again, I'm running out of time already. Nicole as Lucy. Yes. Teresa, you can't wait to see Nicole as Lucy. Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting how they handle it, because I did read that Lucy's daughter was upset about one thing that didn't happen in real life. But for the most part, and again, I know that Aaron Sorkin wrote The Social Network, which was about the Zuckerberg and the beginning of Facebook, and you have to make an interesting story. So does that mean you can lie? No. But even Tom Hanks, who we all, let's say, trust, when he was doing Band of Brothers, and he said to Dick Winters, who was the head of the Band of Brothers, let's just say, he said to him, listen, you're going to say things on screen that you never said in person. You're going to do all this stuff because if you're doing a documentary, then you're factual. If you're doing a dramatization, it's a movie. It has to be entertaining. And I think if anybody here, this is a very, very old reference, but since we have a United Kingdom audience as well, if you ever saw the movie The Great Escape, which starred, Steve McQueen and Richard Attenborough and a slew of international stars, Steve McQueen was a big name, and he has this whole escape motorcycle scene. And the truth was, during The Great Escape, which was a big event of many prisoners breaking out of a prison war camp at a German prisoner war, Stalag Luft 3. No Americans got out in real life during that, but it's an American movie directed by an American, so there's an American guy on a motorcycle. That never happened. However, the movie was, 99% factual. So we will see what happens with I will watch it when it comes out, that story. If many follow, yes, Patty Heaton, Desi Arnaz bio is so good. Thanks for recommending. Oh, yes, great. Robin, you read the Desi Arnaz autobiography. Will I have Patty on at some point? Yes, absolutely. I want to have her and her husband. The last time I saw her was at a screening of a movie they made in Hollywood a few months ago. And I told her that let's do it together because that'll be a fun time. All right. I did pick out a script. That I want to show. So I don't think I've shown this before. This is The Sitter. So, again, for those of you who have never watched, this is the wardrobe department. Let's see what it says on there. Oh, yes, that one even says wardrobe. Usually they just say the name of the person, The Sitter. And this is directed by Will Mackenzie and written by Lou Schneider, who we had on. All right, let's take a look. And also, if you remember, Patty Heaton's husband plays Bill Parker, and his wife on the show is Carrie Parker, and Carrie Parker is Elizabeth Herring in real life, who went to college with Phil Rosenthal. All right, here we go. Let's look at a couple of There we go. There's Ray in an opening scene. I have these are never before seen by the public except for the wardrobe department. I have not looked at these. There's Ray looking sporting full Ray wardrobe. There's another one of Ray. I don't know. And again, if some of this wardrobe doesn't look familiar, if a scene gets cut, it would still be shot. So there is Ray from a Polaroid. Another one of Ray. Lots of notes from the wardrobe department, and hopefully we will have Ashley on to talk about the wardrobe. Here's the lovely Patricia Heaton. So I'm assuming that made it into the episode. Here is Patty again. And is it me, or does her hair color look a little different in that photo? And I can tell there's a guy holding a bag. That's Don Rosemond, who's the head of props. Okay. Patty Heaton. Patty has never seen these. And here we go. There's Patty. That's a nice looking outfit right there. I assume that made it in the show. And so she's got a purse on, and they always take a picture of the purse. And there it looks like Phil is giving notes. And I think I've mentioned to you that the wardrobe department is trying to be very discreet and not interrupt any of the goings-ons. So that's why very often nobody is looking at the camera for that episode. Okay, last shot of Patty. Always looking adorable. There you go. And I think she's showing her wristwatch there. I will have to send that to Patty because that's a cute shot. And I usually try and post at least a few of these. Here we go. Showing pictures from the Sitter episode. There is Doris. Also, again, looking a little bit pale in the face. I know we discussed this before. So let's see. There we go. I have to say, when we would walk anywhere with Doris, she would never go unnoticed. She would dress like she did for the show in public. There's Doris and you can see Patty Heaton's eye in frame there. And they're doing a touch-up on Doris's hair. And here's Doris again. When you walked anywhere in public with Doris and she's dressed like that, you couldn't help but draw a crowd. Ray could blend in very easily. And when Patty comes on, I'll see if she can tell a story of her being on jury duty. That happened to her where she was not recognized. Peter Boyle, of course, looking great. And let's see, there should be, here's Brad. And there we go. At least Brad looks like he's making a face there. Brad Garrett making a funny face there. Sorry about the glare. There we go. And now we will see Patricia Heaton. So I'm going to, let's see if here is the babysitter. Again, Polaroids taking during the filming of the show for continuity purposes. There is the babysitter again, posing. So somewhere, okay, here we go. That is Patricia Heaton's real-life husband with Elizabeth Herring, who was our dialogue coach, went to college with Phil Rosenthal, playing the part of Carrie Parker, Parker being Ray's nemesis. There is another shot of Elizabeth Herring. Again, Patricia Heaton's Ray's nemesis, Patricia Heaton's real-life husband, which is kind of funny when you're watching the scenes and you know. And there is the little girl from that episode. All right, the Sitter wardrobe, never before seen photos. All right, let us see any questions I missed before I have to say goodbye. And again, tell your friends, don't forget to follow on Facebook. I post a picture on Facebook. And so please, the people that aren't Instagram, at least they can follow on Facebook. Wears blue a lot. Ray wears blue a lot throughout the series, and Patty wears red a lot throughout the series. Yes, That's a good observation. I think Patty looks really good, and she usually had red hints in her hair. How many times was Patty Heaton pregnant during the filming? Twice. Season 1 and season 3, Patricia Heaton was pregnant twice. Yes, we hid that. We hid it fairly well until you know it, and then it kind of sticks out. Is there a way to bid on Everett Raymond items like scripts, wardrobe, etc.? Not that I know. Every once in a while, there's stuff on eBay, and I'm trying to put together and get some merchandise to help our super fans of the show. The middles, yes. Okay, great. All right, everybody, thank you very much. I will see you next week. We will have a guest. The week after, we will have a guest. The week after that, we will have a guest. And what makes me laugh on TV? I don't watch TV so much. But I very much enjoyed Everybody Loves Raymond, and I'm not saying that to be funny. I loved Seinfeld. I've only seen, there's not a lot that I've watched. I was a big fan of MASH when I was a kid. And again, and told you not to touch anything. Oh, yes, okay. Kathy, yes, I watched your live with Brad, and of course he was hysterical. Sorry you had to sit near Ray's toilet, and he told you not to touch anything. Thank you. I'm funny too. I will read that that was for those who didn't watch. You can go back. When I interviewed Brad, I was going to Ray's house, and it was the hottest day of the year. It hit 122 degrees, and as I was driving there, the air conditioning in my car broke. I made it to Ray's. Brad had trouble connecting, and I came on, and Ray, who does not do any social media, was asking, "Who are you talking to? What's going on?" I will get Ray on here. It may have to be through his wife's Instagram, but we will have a visit with Ray. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I will see you next week. Spread the word about Instagram and Facebook, Everett Raymond 360 Live.